Today you and I are going to be making a tier list of musical modes from the major and melodic minor keys. Super fun, super nerdy, hopefully you get something out of it. We're going to talk a little bit about what these modes can do for you in your own compositions and why they're so interesting, and you'll hear my opinions on which ones I think are the most useful or interesting based on my experience composing. Now if you don't know what a mode is, I'll explain it briefly, but you can look it up on your own too if you want to learn more detail. A mode basically is a way of saying a scale, and oftentimes it's a scale that is pulled from either a major or a minor key, but starting on different scale degrees. So the result is we have kind of altered notes that make the scale feel different in some way, maybe more bright than a minor would normally be, or darker than a major would normally be. Let's actually just start with Ionian, which is just a fancy way of saying major. We're working with whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. In other words, if we're starting on C, we have whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. This is the classic major. You know, bright. It's kind of oatmeal colored to me. Like, you know, it's cool. It's tried and true. Doesn't have as much color interest as I would like it to, but it works, you know. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this because there's more interesting ones. For me, I'm gonna put Ionian for now in B tier, I think, depending on what else we explore. Let's also just get out of the way AEOLIAN, which is the fancy way of saying natural minor. So natural minor is going to be flat 3, flat 6, flat 7. So 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, back to 1. And from there, obviously, we get the kind of more minor, darker sound. I mean, I'm always a fan of minor stuff over major stuff, so if I put Ionian in B, I'd probably put AEOLIAN in A? For AEOLIAN? I don't know. But that might change too. We'll see. And pay attention to different chords you can get from these modes as we go, because this is where it gets really interesting. So let's move right along. Let's go to Dorian. Good old-fashioned Dorian. Now, Dorian is minor with a natural 6, so it's like a 6 from the major. So instead of this, we get this. Super interesting mode for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's minor, but it has some lift to it. So it's used oftentimes for heroic music, but it can also be used for kind of ancient-sounding music. Halo famously uses this. Here it is. Imagine how boring it would be if it was kind of dark sounding. So it has some lift to it, and I really, really like it. Dorian, for me, I think is the first S tier, because, you know, you can't go wrong with Dorian. Now let's talk about Dorian flat 2, which is from the melodic minor scale. So it's Dorian, but with the flat 2, so in this case, D flat. Very interesting. So it, like the brightness that we were having from the Dorian is now counteracted again. So it should almost feel, I guess, equally dark technically as natural minor, but there's some kind of cool dissonances that make it feel a little stingy, which I like. I love stuff that has that kind of clash and sting to it. And this one kind of feels like it wants to resolve to F major for me. So like, I really like it. I think that's really cool. I'm probably going to put that in, maybe A tier. Like, you know, for me, I almost think it's cooler than Dorian, but I feel like I use Dorian more. I'm not sure. This is gonna be tough. All right, let's go over to Lydian, because that's another classic. So Lydian is major with a sharp 4. So major, Lydian. So we have that brightness to it. The Simpsons uses Lydian. Actually, it uses something slightly different later, but we'll talk about that in a second. So, I mean, that's classic. You use that for like anything in Disney. That's just modulating up a third to do more Lydian fun. So it's magical, it's cool, it's bright. I'm gonna put that in A tier because I think it's great. This is gonna be a problem. I'm gonna have to make some decisions later. Now, Lydian Augmented is kind of an interesting one. If you've heard the augmented scale, augmented means that we work with all major thirds, stacked major thirds. So we get this. It's like the, you know, right before the singer starts singing, there's like, and whatever. So we have that kind of brightness to it because it's like stretched out like a rubber band. And so in Lydian Augmented, we're working with that sharp 4 we had before. But we're also working with a sharp 5. So it almost starts to feel like whole tone, which is this. But it still has the A, natural A, and the natural B. I think this is super cool. So with this is interesting because we can get like E major inside of it and D major. More dissonant, I would say. However, I don't think I use this as much as another one that I use. So for me, this is going to be like maybe a B tier. It's kind of weird to put Ionian and Lydian Augmented right next to each other, but whatever. So now Lydian Dominant, that's their last Lydian here. And this is my personal favorite because we get that sharp 4. But we also get a flat 7. So it's like as soon as you think it's bright, it pulls dark. And I love the contrast between the two because we get like... So I guess technically if I was talking about that Dorian one before, where it's like bright but dark, this is kind of similar, but the other way around. So it's like bright, dark, bright. So interesting colors you can get from this, and I really like this. And what I was going to say about The Simpsons is everybody says The Simpsons uses Lydian, but I would almost argue maybe it uses Lydian Dominant because it does. So that's actually Lydian Dominant because we've got that flat 7. This for me, I think has to be, probably has got to be in S tier. I think this is sick. And I know I use this all the time, like all the time. Uh-oh. Yeah, I'm going to have to make some decisions. All right, let's go to some random ones. So let's talk altered scale. The altered scale is a pretty weird one. It's from the melodic minor modes. It's the last mode. And it's flat 2, flat 3, flat 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7. So, used a lot in jazz music. That sounds like the THX logo, but... So really interesting colors, because we can do... Look at all those cool colors and chords we get out of here. So we get C sharp minor inside C, naturally inside of this key. Really interesting. However, usually I tend to use like octatonic, which is this one. It's got a similar color to it. I don't think I use altered very much. So if I'm being honest, as cool as I think it is, in terms of how often I use it, I'd probably put this in like C tier. But I think there's a lot of cool chord and color combinations inside of this. A lot of C's in that cool color chord combinations. All right, LOCRIAN. Sorry if you like LOCRIAN, I'm putting this in D tier. It's cool. It is cool, but it's not very functional for me. I just never wind up using it. So LOCRIAN is flat 2, flat 3, flat 5, 6, 7. So the 4 is natural. That's the difference between LOCRIAN and the altered scale. LOCRIAN actually in C like feels like D flat major. So like, but we have C as the root. It's cool, like I said, you know, we can do like G flat is inside here. Wait. That's weird. You know, it's just an iconically weird mode. Yeah, I just don't use it enough to really justify putting it anywhere. Okay, let's go MIXOLYDIAN. MIXOLYDIAN's a cool one. MIXOLYDIAN is inside the major modes. And we're working with a flat 7. So it's major flat 7. If you know the song Norwegian Wood by the Beatles, that uses this mode, so. I would say we also kind of associate it with Celtic music sometimes, or piratey music. If you made that major. That's all MIXOLYDIAN there. It has a nice brightness to it without being cheesy for me. I think it's really cool. I prefer MIXOLYDIAN over straight up Ionian, so I think I would put this A tier. And if I'm putting this A tier, man, what goes in S tier? Is Dorian really S tier? Like, yeah, it is S tier. But I feel like Dorian flat 2 is too. But I don't use this much. So, okay, I'm sticking to my list. I'm committed to this. Melodic minor, we didn't talk about this one yet. Melodic minor is just, it's a really common one, actually. I don't even think people consider it to be a mode because it's so common, but it is a mode. It's the first mode of melodic minor. It's a weird way to say it. So melodic minor is, instead of our natural minor, which is flat 3, flat 6, flat 7, we're doing flat 3, natural 6, natural 7. For me, I like that over the natural minor because we get that leading tone. Leading tones pull you right back to a 1, so it's like a natural 7. Feels like it wants to go. Whereas when we have a flat 7, it just doesn't have the same pull and tension to a 1 because it's a whole step away instead of a half step. That's tensor, right? That wants to resolve. This doesn't need to resolve necessarily. So I love being able to play with that in melodic minor. Oh, sorry, I did a flat B flat in there. Melodic minor is really cool. That's gonna go. I put AEOLIAN here. Okay, then AEOLIAN's going B tier. Melodic minor's going A tier. Okay. Almost there now. MIXOLYDIAN flat 6. I forgot about this one too. So we talked about MIXOLYDIAN. That was major flat 7. How are you doing with numbers? You getting a lot of numbers in this video? I feel like like an accountant. MIXOLYDIAN flat 6. This was MIXOLYDIAN. Now the flat 6 is going to do some really cool stuff. Freaking love this one. Because we can get F minor and G minor, but then pull to C major. It's almost like the flip of the melodic minor. Because melodic minor, we used a major 4 and a major 5 chord, but then went to a minor 1. Major, major, minor. And then in this one, we go minor, minor, major. So it's kind of interesting. I love the kind of the duality of different modes, that they kind of do the same thing in different ways, or like mirror images of each other. I find that really fascinating. This is probably an S tier for me, to be honest. I just like when my modes can do two things at the same time. When they can pull you in dark and bright. That's so cool. I feel like Thomas Newman probably used this one. Freaking love that, man. Ooh, that's got to be like there for me. Super cool. All right, Phrygian is the next one we're gonna do. Phrygian is similar to LOCRIAN, except for Phrygian. Well, actually, it's kind of similar, but it's natural minor flat 2. So here's our natural minor. But now we're doing a flat 2. So even darker than natural minor. And also just a quick side tangent, I would recommend when you think about these modes, don't think about them in the order of the scale. So like we all learn like I don't fart loudly, my ass laughs. That's Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, etc. If you don't know that, then that's probably weird what I just said, but there's a structure you learn the modes. However, I encourage you to experiment and learn the order from brightest to darkest or darkest to brightest. So for example, Lydian is one of the brightest modes that we have because it's very raised up. So then you ask yourself, is Lydian augmented brighter or darker than Lydian? And the answer is that it's brighter because instead of a natural 5, we have a raised 5. So it's even brighter, right? So like Lydian augmented is brightest, Lydian, major, MIXOLYDIAN, you know, and you can keep going. Then we could go like MIXOLYDIAN flat 6, etc. You get the idea. Natural minor. It basically goes from brightest to darkest. And what that's useful for is when you're composing, you can kind of shift the color of your piece. So we could do like... So I made it feel really bright in the beginning and then pulled it to a darker tone just by shifting modes as I go. So anyway, Phrygian is natural minor flat 2. It's pretty cool, I think. I kind of prefer having like an E natural in there, like a major 3. I really like having... Because if I'm going to do like this, I really want to go. That's why I love that MIXOLYDIAN flat 6. So this one, Phrygian, that maybe C tier for me, I think. It's okay. And then lastly, we have half diminished, which, believe it or not, is a mode as well as a chord. So the half diminished chord is flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. And the scale is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7. So, again, really commonly used in jazz. It's interesting, it kind of like insinuates in C, like E flat minor. Like, I prefer this one. I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know if it's like my favorite here, but it is kind of interesting because it has some clash in there. So I don't know, maybe I'll put that like, I'd put that in, I would say A tier, I guess. A tier, yes. And I'm going to put MIXOLYDIAN in B tier. And I think I'm cool with that. Yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm locking in my numbers. It's really tough to decide because I love all the colors for different reasons. But this is my list. Hopefully you learned something in here. If you did, you can leave me a like, subscribe for more content. And if you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee in the video description. I really appreciate that, all the support I've gotten over the past few months. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, let me know and I might do more tier lists like this because it was fun. See you in the next video.